razor. I'm going to be giving Georgia here, Georgia's my model, and I'm going to be giving Georgia a like really short kind of shaggy punk cut. But before we get into the actual creation of the cut itself, I'm doing what's called setting in the hairline. So as you can see, Georgia has a lot of hair, like baby hairs at the nape. And what I'm doing is, if you see right here, is I just want it to like blend in really nicely. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow the hair that falls down over it to have like better movement. And it's also going to prolong the life of this haircut so she can rock it for months and months. Because usually it's around this area when it starts to grow in that people start to feel like they want to get a haircut again. I want Georgia to feel like she could go for months and months and just let this haircut evolve and turn into different things as it continues to grow. I'm using what's called the flat of the blade. So when you're cutting with the razor, you want to be cutting with the edge, which is the sharpest part. But when you're doing refining work like this, you want to work with the flat. And this is going to help me to blend everything together better and make it just look more tailored to fit her.
It's such a beautiful little thing that makes such a difference in a haircut. Like if your haircut lengths are getting anywhere close to the hairline or above the shoulder, this, it just makes that haircut, number one, last so much longer. But you know what I always think about is how pretty it is too. It's like the lining of a beautiful coat. Like not everybody knows it's there, but the people that get to see the lining and they can say, oh wow, that's so beautiful, because it's just so soft and pretty, isn't it?
It is so pretty. And Georgia's got a great hairline too, so I'm really excited. This is actually my favorite part of the haircut.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It is. I love that analogy of the lining because it really is like this special detail that only a few people can get to see. But when you notice it, it just adds a different level of, I guess, elegance to the cut.
So how do you analyze a hairline? You said she had a great hairline, and I just find I work with so many hairdressers and they're unsure about, what makes a hairline cooperative, what makes a hairline challenging.
Well, I like a challenging hairline, so that's part of what makes it great. But in addition to that, it's just like how the hair wants to just hug the shape of the neck and how it all comes together to this beautiful point like this, and you can just blend it. And the fact that she's got like places where it's more sparse and then more dense, when it all comes together and is blended, it just looks so beautiful. But I also really love a challenging hairline too. I want to try and get all hairlines to look beautiful. And a challenging one is great because it gets me thinking. It gets me I get into problem solving mode, you know what I mean? So something that I'm thinking about here is I'm looking at the way that the hair grows. So we've got this hair that grows flat down this way, but then you can see this hair is coming in this direction. And in order for me to set it in, I have to do a little bit of graduation. So I'm going to just extend it opposite the way that it wants to grow. And I'm going to cut it with the back of the razor touching the neck. And then I'm just slowly gliding the blade over. And what that's gonna do is it's getting the hair to go from short to long, which enables it to lay down nicer on the nape like that. And then any of the stragglers, I just come back in and I just get them off.
Have you ever, just kind of gone through the whole head like this? Say someone wants either a man or a woman or anyone who wears their hair quite short.
Yeah.
Do you think you could go through a whole haircut and just kind of cut free form like this?
Absolutely. This is how I love to do pixie cuts because pixie cuts are so delicate but they're very complex as well. And in order to make a pixie cut really look cute on the person that's wearing it, I really tailor make the cut all over the head so that the hair just hugs the head nicely all over.
And it's a great way when you're going shorter to kind of help to control growth directions. Sometimes just a perfect little clean square haircut, every growth direction is going to jump all over the place.
Definitely.
Where working individually piece by piece like this, you can lay it all into the head.
Exactly. So as you can see, I like to take my time and really tailor it. This section falls down this way, but if I look at where the hair is growing out of the head, it's got that curve, so it actually wants to hug the nape. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna encourage it to hug the nape by going down into the direction that the root wants to travel to encourage it to lay down to the neckline better.
It's amazing how much thought just goes into this. I think sometimes people, like even the way that you sectioned it, you spent it's not like just you took a perfect clean little section. Like you looked at the hairline and you decided what needed to come off and what didn't.
Exactly. And the other thing too is you want to really listen to where the hair wants to go and then respond to it. It's kind of like, I like to think of cutting hair as like I'm compromising with the hair. Mm-hmm. I want it to do one thing, it wants to do another. How can we work together to make that happen?
Rather than beating it into submission, which I think sometimes is, what a lot of people think they have to do when they cut hair. Like, I've got to control it instead of working with it.
I definitely have been in that mindset a lot, especially when I was a younger hairstylist. I felt like I had to be the one that was in charge. But then the hair, I would find myself fighting with the hair to get it to look good.
Okay, so we've done that kind of subsection, like, set in the hairline. Now let's get a look at Georgia. We've only seen her hairline. Hi, Georgia.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you ready for Christian's magic?
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's a big change for you today.
Yeah.
Christian, can you give us an overview now of what's going to happen with the rest of the hair?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm first of all assessing Georgia's texture. She's got a really nice, healthy, medium texture. It's just recently colored at the salon by our stylist named Dana. And it's a beautiful single process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to mid-neck. So it's going to start out as a bob, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with her natural growth patterns and take a lot of weight and length out of the interior. I'm going to give her like a really fun, very punk rock shag style. And
so exciting to see this.
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that I'm really excited about. Talking about like being excited about necklines, I'm also really excited about growth patterns. What I've got here, or not what I've got, well, what I've got to work with what George has got, is this really awesome whorl. The hair is pushing in different ways, and you can see here it really wants to lay flat, and here she's got a little kick. So what I want to do is give her a style that's going to balance out this side with this side, and that's going to require me paying attention to where the hair wants to travel naturally. So the first thing I do before I even get started with the cut is I go into the whorl and I start combing the hair out from where the growth pattern starts. So this hair all wants to go this way. This hair wants to go pretty much, let's get this over. This stuff wants to go down this way. So I'm making my plan based off of what her hair wants to do. And this is also how I'm going to do my sectioning. My sectioning is going to be based on where all this wants to go. She's open to a bang that just hits about eyebrow level, and then a lot of short pieces around the face. So understanding that, I have to then determine what's her bang section and what's going to be the stuff that sits around her face, and what's going to be the layering. So I'm looking again at her growth patterns, and if you can see, there's a split happening right there. What that's telling me is that this hair wants to be the face framing. You can even see once it comes down how it hugs the face. This stuff wants to be the layers. So I'm going to start sectioning out the stuff. I'm not going to do it necessarily, I'm trying to explain my thought process. I'm paying attention to where things want to go, and then I'll be sectioning accordingly.
So kind of organic rather than worrying about complete symmetry.
Totally.
More like just so each side might be a little different because the hair grows and lays a little different.
Totally. Yeah. If you look, for instance, at how much more hair she has on this side than she does on this side, I want to balance it out. The first thing I've got to do is create the perimeter. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to move into the interior. I'm just going to work around the head. I'm going to start in the front because this is where the biggest change is going to take place. The length is a big change too, but I would say the stuff around the face and what's going on here is going to be an even bigger change than the length from the bottom. So we'll do that first, and then I'll take the bottom up probably last. I'm gonna use some tonic to dampen her hair. I don't want to get it super soaking wet because I want to pay attention to her growth patterns. And if I wet her hair down too much, I'm not going to be able to see where it wants to go and how it's moving and living.
So tonic is kind of a legendary cutting lotion. I was just requesting that I get some because I haven't had any. But it, you know, especially for working with the blade, like, because it gave you the opportunity to really evaluate the hair naturally, and then to wet it down with something that's like lighter than water, but also kind of lubricates a bit more than water, so the blade can really glide through.
Yeah, it also has oils in it that are really nourishing to the hair.
It's like a tea tree oil base, if I remember correctly. It smells wonderful, smells clean.
It smells super clean. And I'm working it in with my hands. I don't want all the wetness of this product to be sitting on the surface, because then it's not really gonna do its thing. The beauty of this product is when it gets absorbed into the hair, and it can be a cutting tool, but it can also be a styling product at the same time.
So we have our first good question coming in here from Amy.
Yes.
Amy's wondering, if the hair is really long, would you scissor cut first, then do the razor, or do you prefer to razor from the start?
Great question. You know, it really depends on what my desired outcome is. And if somebody is doing, like, let's say they're donating hair, what I might do is braid it and cut it off with scissors. But if we're doing a cut that doesn't enable us to do that, then I'll just jump right into the razor.
Talk a little bit about razor cutting. I still, you know, I know a lot in our community, even though it's gotten way more popular and there's so much more great education than there ever was. Still, a lot of people are maybe skeptical or afraid. As someone who is very experienced with the razor, why do you enjoy working with it? What benefits do you find from it? And, you know, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I love it because, as you'll see in this haircut, I can really trust my eye, and I can really go with my feeling in the moment, instead of having to work in smaller sections. The razor takes off a lot more hair a lot faster than the scissor does, which is one of the scary things.
Yeah, if you're not prepared and you don't have good understanding of what you're doing, then you end up in trouble. And I think that's maybe why so many people are afraid to use it.
Yeah, I can understand. I was so terrified to use the razor when I first started learning, and it took me a while. I'm not going to say it was an immediate thing. It has a big learning curve, but that's part of the fun of it. Is I feel like what it's done for me as a hairstylist is it's opened me up to understanding that I actually can trust my instincts way more than I was when I was just cutting with the shear. It just frees me up. And I feel like because of the fact that you're able to create so much texture and movement in the hair with the razor, I get a lot more playful results. So as I'm going what I'm doing is I'm just looking again at the hair where her density changes. It's thicker here than it is here, and the hair just kind of wants to split off right there. So I'm just kind of working with what it's telling me it wants to do. And then this is going to be bang and face framing. So I'm going to start by doing the bang section.
Let's get a close look at how you hold the razor, because I think a lot of people aren't even sure of how to do that. I know they are because I've been spending years teaching people. Yeah.
Yes. So you want to start with the razor closed, and then you open it up by holding the back of the razor and the handle. You open it up all the way. You anchor it with your thumb, middle finger, and index finger. And then once you've got that secure, you kind of move it up toward the top, I guess like the base of your fingers. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you're holding it like a pencil. And what I'm thinking about when I'm cutting with the razor is I'm cutting with the edge, so the sharpest part here. I don't want to be cutting with the side of the blade. If I'm cutting with the side of the blade, I'm shaving the hair off, and that is when you get into trouble. So shaving the hair off is when you can damage the cuticle and cause all kinds of other problems. By tilting the blade and cutting through the hair this way, you're getting a taper on the ends of the hair, which creates movement, but you're also getting a clean cut as well. So it's a tapered, clean cut.
Which is just such a modern thing, and sometimes we have to work extra hard with the scissor to get that effect.
Yes.
Where the razor just does it so naturally.
So I'm working with her head shape, and I'm working at holding the hair
Come around this way.
around the head. And now I've got the texture, the combing is really important. So I've got this perfect amount of tension. It should be really tight, and I should be able to see all the hair traveling in unison and no crisscrossing over or anything. And I'm gonna just stretch down. I give it a little bit of a push, and that's gonna tell me where that bend is telling me I can't have my stroke go higher than that, otherwise I'll get a lot of kick. So I'm just gonna start my momentum and then just go right through the section. So you can see it's kind of zigzaggy. And that zigzag is like weight removal and length removal happening at the same time. And it's creating this really soft texture that just sits right at the side of right off the face.
Looks great already.
Thank you.
I love that you mentioned combing and tension, because I think right away people think, oh, razor cutting, it's free form, it's messy, just pick up hair. But it's actually exactly the opposite, right? The blade cuts so softly that everything else has to be really in control.
Yes, absolutely. Just getting it a little bit more damp here. You don't want to cut on dry hair so much because you want the blade to be able to glide over the hair, and sometimes if hair is dry, it's going to snag too much. Her hairline is very fine and delicate, so I'm going to be more gentle with my stroke here.
So is it a little bit of a shorter stroke?
Shorter stroke, which is creating more strength, and then here where the hair is more dense and strong.
Kind of opening it up a bit.
Yeah. And I'm going to come from behind a little bit to push it so that allows the hair to just kind of like give that nice little curl to hug the jaw. And then I'm just gonna, I wanna remove a little bit of weight in there. So I'm taking this triangle that sits right above the ear. I'm gonna come straight out, and I'm just gonna go shorter with it. And what that does is it opens up all this length around the ear, and she can have these cute little pieces around the ear, or she could have it kind of sit over the ear, and it's not going to get too heavy.
It's very deliberate. That's what I love about great razor cutting. It's just like, I want this to do this, so I'm going to cut this way, I'm going to cut this way, and it's going to do it. There's not like 15 moves that you make to make it happen. It's just like one to the left, one to the right. Just do it with perfection.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's also the thing about razor cuts that I love is like they look really effortless and not overthought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just looks super almost like I want it to look almost like she just did this on her own at home. I don't want it to look too hairstyly, you know what I mean? I want it to have a punk edge, and punk has that DIY aesthetic. So I'm using a bit of the previous section that I cut on the other side. So there's my guide, but I'm gonna drop my guide, and then this is how I'm gonna follow. But also, she's got less density here than she does here, so my stroke is gonna be bigger so that I can balance out the weight.
And on this side, are you working more from the heel?
Correct, I'm working from the heel. So when I'm cutting from center to right, I'm using the tip. And when I'm cutting from center to left, I'm using the heel.
And the heel usually takes a lot of practice because it just doesn't feel as natural.
No.
Yeah. That's where great training comes in. I know many of you have attended the Bumble and Bumble University or had Bumble educators come into your salons to kind of share this with you. And as I said in the opening, I think such a great impression on our industry that we're really seeing right now more than ever. I think with the visual aspect of Instagram and people kind of carving out a look, this bohemian kind of French kind of textured look, whether it be a bob or a pixie or a shag or a mullet, And I think a lot of that really, if you look back into these beautiful archives that Bumble has, you'll get so much great inspiration for what people are doing right now. So it's kind of creating that little bit of space, like a little triangle above the ear there.
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite little tricks.
Yeah.
I separated out this section because on this side, her hair is way more dense than it is on this side. And a part of it is there's this piece that wants to sit over. So I need to make sure that this is balanced with this, and I need to get rid of some of this weight in here. So I'm just gonna come in and just chip it out.
It's kind of one of those interesting things that to get visual symmetry, sometimes you have to cut the two sides differently, rather than cutting them exactly the same to be symmetrical visually.
That's, you know what, honestly, that's another reason why I fell in love with the razor, is it forced me to be way more present. Actually, would you mind just taking this off your ear really quickly? Thank you. I want to make sure that it is, with the razor, thank you, that's great. The razor forces me to stay super present with what I'm doing and what's going on with their hair all over the head. So it gets you out of autopilot mode, which I definitely felt like I was stuck in for a little while there at the beginning of my career. I just felt like, I'm just doing the same thing every day. This really got me out of that headspace.
So if there are some young hairdressers watching or anyone in school, first of all, give yourself a shout out, let us know that you're watching. But do you think that they should, in those first couple months, first year, really be focusing on razor cutting, or should they kind of learn the fundamentals with the scissor?
I think it's good to do both, because especially when you're just starting out, you're way more open and you're way more eager to just take all the information in. And I think that you really can learn the scissor and the razor at the same time and still, benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
You may actually find that you have a certain tool you prefer. And you also will learn how well they complement one another as well.
Now, we did have a question earlier, again from Amy, about hair textures. Will you razor every type of hair texture? There's some that you'd stay away from. Is the razor okay for very fine hair?
Yeah, I would say it's great for pretty much any hair texture. I wouldn't use it on, say, on 4B, 4C hair, because that hair is already, it needs strength, and so a scissor is going to be better for it. But for most other hair types, it's good. Another hair type that I would avoid using the razor on is hair that's been compromised by chemical procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that looks like it's damaged or needs more strength.
When we went through the kind of Brazilian, Japanese straightening trend, that was the texture that I always hated to razor because of, you couldn't get your tension right because it would stretch and it would pop in weird ways.
Yeah, it's people that want to have a straightening process are typically not going to be razor candidates because the razor does create more texture. And if there are people who have invested money in trying to make their hair more straight,
Yeah.
They're not going to want that texture. But also
It's kind of going to fight it.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm just going with, again, I'm paying attention to the way her hair grows. I'm going to have you tilt all the way over. So now what I'm going to do is create, this is the length. So she was mid-neck, so here we are at mid-neck, and I have her tilted because I want to cut the hair closer to where it's going to live. And again, I'm doing a nice big stroke. And I'm cutting from front to back so that it swings forward instead of back. And then I'm going to bring this next section down.
Yeah, I knew this question was going to come up about where did you find your wooden handle. David is wondering. David, unfortunately, those haven't been made in a very long time. So it's probably been at least 10 years since they've been made by Feather. Currently, there's just the black option from Feather Plie. But, we've had different, at Hairbrain Pro, we've had some different wooden ones over the years. And hopefully we'll get some again soon. But this was the Bumble and Bumble edition that was made 10 to 15 years ago.
You can even see the bumble
Yeah.
bumble.
And unfortunately, it was made by Feather Plie. It was a collaboration, but they don't make it anymore. And I've even talked to the company to try to make them, and they won't make them. So, maybe you can find some. I bet there are some people out there who bought it and haven't used it in a long time.
People sell a lot
Yeah.
of our stuff on eBay.
On eBay, yeah.
Yeah. Like stuff that we made a long time ago. People are really wanting it, so people will sell them on eBay.
So now moving to the second side, and this is establishing the length.
It is, but notice how much shorter my stroke is on this
Totally.
side. And it's again because of the fact that her hair here is less dense than it is on the other side. And I just want to make sure that I'm being respectful of what every part of the head needs. You don't have to do the same thing all over. You do whatever is necessary in the moment, in the area where you're working. So I want to just make sure that you're getting a nice balanced length. I don't have a mirror, so I need to step in front of her for a second and just see what's going on. Looking cute. All right, so I'm going to start playing with, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move around to the back. And you can see already, right here, this hair, the way it's splitting, this hair wants to drop, and this hair wants to come straight back when I'm holding it in this, almost like I'm gonna create a ponytail. So this is telling me that this is where I can take my first section. So I'm gonna put the comb right in there, keeping it flat on its side to follow head shape. And it's gonna give me a nice clean section as I work around perfectly horizontally. And this is all going to get put up. I'm just gonna clip it. We don't usually use clips at Bumble because it takes us out of being present with the hair, but time is of the essence right now, so I'm just gonna put it up.
If you weren't going to use a clip, would you just use some product and try to really kind of groom it into the direction you wanted it to go?
Correct, yeah. So she's got a lot of density in the occipital nape area. You can even see a lot of the hair gathers in the center. So I'm going to create a triangle right here. And this is going to be, I'm going to take this is going to be weight taking out that becomes like I'm doing a terrible job of describing this.
No, you're doing a great job.
But I'm going to be removing weight and length at the same time.
So it's kind of like a triangle section, or I think sometimes they used to call it like an arrowhead, right? Just kind of like
Yes.
pointed at the top, wider at the bottom.
Correct. And if you look in profile, it's less dense at the top, it's really meatier there in the middle, and then it's really sparse at the bottom. So this is going to be where I remove a lot of the weight. And then this stuff and this stuff is going to be the length. So I'm going to hold it straight out from the head. You can see that band of weight right there.
So now just kind of going in with the tip of the blade.
Now that weight is gone, and I'm going to take that out, and now I can create my base length. We have to tilt your head all the way down. There we go.
So that section in the middle, does that kind of create some direction or some space and openness?
Space and openness. And also, yeah, it's gonna allow, see if you can see now the hair has a lot more movement and lift. It wants to just like move. And all this stuff here is gonna fall over it, so people will never know that I took all that weight out of there.
And then this is kind of like all the bulk that's in the crown.
Yes. So I'm going to re-dampen it just a little bit and start adding more product to help me see the cut a little better, see the style.
So again, using tonic as your kind of cutting lotion to keep the hair damp and controllable.
Correct. And then I'm going to use, this is an old school edition of thickening spray. We don't make this anymore, but the product is called thickening spray.
So you don't make that package, but you still make thickening spray.
Whoa,
Yeah,
yes, thickening
yeah.
spray. Oh my gosh, we
Yeah.
will never get rid of thickening spray. It is like,
I requested some of that as well. I need some tonic, some thickening spray.
there are times I will go on, go to shows at Fashion Week and see other teams backstage, and teams, even though they may be with another product brand, they all have thickening spray.
Yeah, it's a staple in styling hair,
It is
yeah.
such a staple. And what the thickening spray is doing for me while I'm cutting is it's helping me, it's going to help me to hold the sections and help me to see a little bit better texture. And I want to add a little bit of grooming cream.
Another classic.
Another classic, and I'm going to start with that much. Grooming cream, you want to activate it on your hands first, so it becomes nice and pasty, and then you can just start working it through. What grooming cream does is it gives it kind of like a more lived-in, moisturized finish. So it's not like a super polished finish. It's more like, think like 90s cool girl grunge.
So what, in your role as an education manager, education director, what types of things are you doing? And especially, we're still kind of coming out of our pandemic. Education isn't as it always has been at the House of Bumble, meaning you don't have classes coming in and out every weekend.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been doing?
We've been good. We're doing a lot of stuff in terms of the development of our online education. So that's all coming at the start of 2022.
So lots of online courses and...
We're going to have a whole online education platform for all levels, and people that are new to Bumble, people that have been with Bumble forever, and we're going to have it's the new evolution of our BBU, Bumble and Bumble University. Okay, so now you can see I've combed everything out to match, where her hair wants to travel based on how it's growing out of the head. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start blending the perimeter that I've cut with the stuff that's on the interior. And again, because it's where we have the biggest change, I'm going to start in the front. Now the nature of more shag styles is you're creating more of a square shape. So my layers are going to be really square, and I want the sides to be square so it sits nice and slim, but then has a lot of lift and movement at the top. So I'm going to use the sections that I cut around the perimeter as my guide for removing length on the interior.
Now, this is something that even people who work a lot with the razor often have challenges with, elevating the hair and razoring. I mean, lots of times they're cutting at low elevations and they feel comfortable. So if we can really kind of break down how you go about this and control it.
Sure. Well, part of the control is from the products that I put in. The products are really tools just as much as anything else, like the razor, this comb, the scissor. And as you can see, this product is helping me hold the hair where I want it, but still allow it to, be combable. And this is all the stuff that I've already cut, and I'm going to drop the guide out, and then this is weight, so I'm going to cut that weight out.
So as you were looking through that, just seemed like a dense spot.
I saw like a band of weight, and you'll see that again. There's plenty in there. So I'm going to come around Now to this side, there's this section that wants to stay together here. So I'm just gonna go whoop and follow that. And then elevate it. And now this is
So you're taking a guide from what you had just cut underneath
correct.
and cutting square off of that.
Correct. I'm gonna come around to the other side now. How you doing, Georgia?
I'm good.
You feeling good?
Yeah. I've never had a razor haircut before, so it feels different than like scissors. Way different.
Yeah. It's kind of like getting a little head massage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like plucking strings, like bing, bing,
Yeah,
bing, 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 bing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your head straight up for me. Thank you. So this section comes all the way from this side and travels all the way over. And that's just the way her hair wants to grow. It's not up to me to decide. I'm responding to what the hair wants to do. So this is the stuff that was the length on the side.
So this is a different guideline than you had in the fringe because you're using the hair that's falling like over the ear. Correct? Yeah.
See how much more weight there is on this side?
Yeah.
How much thicker this section looks? So I'm going to remove weight and length at the same time. Where my fingers are is the length. No weight needs to be taken out there. Here we can remove weight. And here we can remove weight.
And then you kind of curve a little bit at the end to cut the length. It's almost like a J motion.
Correct.
Yeah. That's when it's all really kind of ticking. You're getting the weight and the length at the same time.
Yeah, it saves you so much time.
Sure.
And again, it's like, it helps keep the haircut looking organic and not too overthought. Okay, now we're going to move around to the back.
And same idea here, you'll use the underneath or will you use the hair from the front?
I'm going to use the hair from underneath.
Let me come around here so I get a good angle.
Get the comb out of the way.
And that blade is kind of really with the grain of the hair.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's not dragging at all.
No.
That's a problem I see very often when people try this. The blade it's kind of angled too much and it's dragging where you're really with that grain.
The other thing too is the tension of the hair and the motion of the blade,
The momentum of it.
the momentum of the blade going through the hair is helping to
Yeah,
make sure
there has to be a really great rhythm here. I mean, because if you don't have that, it's hard to be consistent.
Yes. There are probably some pieces. I'm noticing there are some pieces that I missed, but that's part of the fun. I'm going to come back and get those later.
Now, I notice you're always kind of cutting from the inside of your palm out rather than trying to come backwards. Sometimes I've seen people try to come backwards and it makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, I don't want to cut my wrist.
Yeah.
No. So I always work from the center out.
Yeah. You also just have more momentum that way, the way that your hand moves, or when you try to kind of come backward the other way, it feels and looks awkward.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it doesn't really work the same way.
Yeah.
So if you're just joining us, we're here in New York City. We've got a fun little studio that we rented just for our time with Christian. You can see we have this beautiful piano here as an added kind of fun addition. We've got our beautiful model Georgia is having a big change. This is Christian von Bremen, who is the education manager with Bumble and Bumble. What a great role with an industry powerhouse for education. And he's been sharing some great razor cutting tips. If you're just joining us now, all this will be saved and you'll be able to watch it at any time here on our Facebook page. So you can go back through and along with well over 600 other videos that we've done over the years here with great artists and educators. But today, a pleasure to be working with Chris John from Bumble and Bumble.
I am so amped to be here today. So glad that we could be doing this together, Gerard.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I removed a lot from the interior, but apparently I still need more. So I'm just gonna, I have to go, there's a step that I must have missed, or I thought that I didn't need to do this step, but it's okay. So I'm just gonna remove more length and weight.
So now the overhanging hair, are you using the previous length as a reference?
I am.
So this is kind of falling over what you did in the nape, and then you're taking off the excess length.
Correct.
And just kind of thinking basically kind of square with the line?
Yeah, keeping it square. Remembering that this style is about having some squareness, so I want to keep everything square. I don't want to round anything out too much.
And how long have you been working with Bumble? Tell us a little bit about your history with the brand.
I've been with Bumble for 11 years. I've been doing hair for 20 years. But I started taking classes at Bumble as a student in 2004 at the House of Bumble University in the Meatpacking District of Manhattan.
And for those of you that have never been there, it's really something, it's hopefully opening back up in the new year after we've gotten through everything that's happening. And if you've never had a chance to visit, at the very least, if you're in New York, just put it on your tour. You can check out the salon, you can check out the university space. Again, I don't know that that's possible right now, but hopefully in the new year, things will be open back up.
I was way too conservative with this weight and length removal, so that's why I had that situation. So now we're getting what I wanted. Now we're gonna get more of a fun shag.
So just basically going through now and taking some of those layers a bit shorter.
Yeah, I don't know. I was being unusually squeamish.
Can't put it back. You can always take more.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think it's good for people to see that even someone, with a mastery that you have, you might do something once and then reevaluate it and do some more. I think that's the beauty of our craft.
It is. It's part of the fun. It's like, it's always got to be a learning process. And if you're not learning with every haircut, then maybe it's time that you look at things from a different angle. So I'm just looking at where her hair is accumulating weight, and then we're going in and removing it. Sit straight up. There we go. This guy. Okay, so I'm going to start drying it just so I can see the texture. I'm just using a little bit of heat and gentle airflow. I want to start creating texture in her hair, so I'm moving it around the root. I want to see how much volume I can get from these layers.
So it's really an art to hand drying. I think, sometimes people automatically just go right for a round brush all the time, where very often a great modern haircut like this, just a dryer in your hands, you can get so many wonderful effects.
Oh yeah, look at the volume that I'm getting from gently bending it with my hands. And because of the product, I'm getting this nice curve that's holding with tons of lift.
So really just working the root at this point to try to get it to lift up.
Yeah, so I want to see it have a lot of movement. I'm thinking like Debbie Harry and Blondie, like kind of like just this really fun, shaggy, short bob.
You know, in the beginning, I was talking a lot about how I think Bumble helped to open people's mind to the importance of the eye, and you've mentioned a lot of references. So, you know, how important is it to study these looks? Like to think, oh, well, what was Blondie like? What did Debbie Harry's hair look like 35, 40 years ago?
To me, it's one of the most important things about being a good hairdresser is knowing your references and knowing like where ideas came from and how they evolved and why they evolved and like what part of our, you know, where did this come from and where did that come from and who did that first, you know, and who, you know, if they did it first, where did they get that idea from? You know, everything is cyclical, and the more that you are able to know the history of hair, the more that you're able to see where it's going. And it helps keep you ahead of the curve, but also on top of that, it helps you stay inspired.
Yeah, one of the amazing things at the House of Bumble is the library that you have with all the books that are related to hairdressing and beauty.
Yeah, we've got a huge library of resources. I'm just, might have overdone it at the root there. So I'm just gonna wet it down just a little bit at the bang area.
It's looking great. I love this movement through the sides and the back, and now just kind of reshaping the front.
Yeah, I want to see how this hugs the face.
Get a little 360. We can see all the beauty in those layers, the movement that the razor created. And now reshaping. It's got kind of a mod look to it as well.
It does.
Yeah. Now with that front volume taken down.
And that's the other thing too, is when we're working, we, especially at Bumble, we want to play with the versatility. We want to make sure that everyone's able to really enjoy working with their hair in different ways.
What, I get asked all the time about training programs like in salon. If someone wanted to come and work as an apprentice at Bumble, how does that work these days?
Well, we're actually hiring right now. If people want to come to Bumble, we are taking applications for people to join our assistant program. And in order to work at Bumble, you have to go through the assistant program. It's about a year and a half to 2 years. And you learn all the fundamentals. And but then we also do offer in-salon education through our Bumble Live team. And then, of course, we will also be, like I mentioned, we'll be opening our...
So lots of ways to get education through Bumble. I mean, you could be someone who decides to work with the company by working in the salon as an apprentice, training with the goal of becoming a busy stylist or colorist in either one of the two salons here in New York.
Correct.
You can also, if you're a salon owner who works with Bumble, has these incredible products in your salon, then that's the Bumble Live program. That's where your educators visit the actual salons.
Correct.
And has that been up and running, or is that on a pause with the pandemic?
It's still on a pause, but we are going to be relaunching that in 2022. So I want to replicate the aesthetic of the razor by doing some deep point cutting with the shears.
What grabbed your eye there that you felt needed to change?
It just felt a little thick to me, and it wasn't laying quite right. And so I'm seeing there's still just more on the interior there that I think needs to come out. And now it's like sitting a little bit more.
Literally adding more layering there.
Yeah, just to give it more movement. But it's dry now, so I can't cut it with the razor. Otherwise, it might not It's not gonna feel good, that's for sure.
It kind of tends, you know, especially an unguarded blade, it's so sharp it pulls the hair when it's dry.
Correct.
That's why, you know, cutting with a little bit of tonic makes it glide so much more.
Right. You can create razor effects with the shear just based on how you point cut. And the deeper that you point cut, the more movement you get. See how it's sitting more slim now?
Oh, yeah.
This is a fun little bonus. You guys are getting to see a little bit of scissor cutting in this as well.
Yeah, we love that.
Whoops, sorry. And she carries a lot of weight at the crown, so that's why I sectioned this out. Before I drop it, I just want to make sure that everything is balanced all over. Sorry.
You can see that fun little piece that you cut in front of the ear there. And then the layering that's kind of around it, working off that baseline. And then again, one more look at the crown.
So look at how dense that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get rid of some of this weight, so I'm getting tension. And again, because I have the product in there, it's helping me to hold that section with tension.
So you can go nice and deep into it. Sounds of New York City in the background here on 6th Avenue. It's a very normal occurrence for us here.
Anytime I try and do a live video from home, I always am like, dang it, there's so many sirens in the background.
I think people enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
We're in New York City. Right down 6th Avenue, you're going to hear some sirens. So coming in and layering a little bit more dry and working with the blow dryer again.
Yeah. Not overdoing it, just to get a little bit of lift and texture. And I'm going to use one of my favorite products.
What do we have here? This one's new to me.
Sumo Liquid Wax and Finishing Spray.
Oh, is that fairly new, or
It's been
it's part of the extension of the Sumo line?
We used to have a product called City Swept.
Uh-huh.
And it was a kind of like a cult favorite. And then it got discontinued and people lost their minds. So we brought it back. It's been reincarnated. And it's now part of the Sumo family. And what it does is it just gives me a little bit more ability to create separation and give a little bit more of like a grungy downtown aesthetic.
I'm getting little like Susie Sue vibes now too.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Susie Sue,
Yeah. I haven't seen any recent pictures of her. I think she's kind of gone into, you know, I don't want to say hiding. I don't know. What's it? That's another word for that.
Yeah.
She's retired gracefully.
Yes. She's made her millions.
Yeah.
She's good.
Maybe it has a little bit to do with the eyes, the eye makeup, and it's got that cool, I love the way the fringe is bending like that. You know, people sometimes work so hard with styling for that to happen where it seems like it just does it automatically with a great razor cut.
The razor really enables the hair to bend it however you want it to bend. Especially if you've got like straighter textures that you want to see more movement happen, that's when you'd want to pull out the razor.
It's that tapering that allows the ends to be flexible.
Correct.
That beautiful detail right in front of the ear. It just makes it very purposeful when it's tucked. Little does it all as well.
Yeah, just for a little extra lift and finish.
Looking great, Georgia. You look fantastic. What a great makeover.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, bangs definitely make a huge difference for you. It opens your face. You can see that beautiful eyes. Nice to see ears too.
Cute. I think we're done. Does anybody have any other questions?